Guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my wrap up of July and August. I did not do a wrap up for July because I was in a super big slump. I only read 5 books and I was like, okay, I don't want to make a whole entire video if there's only going to be 5 books, and I really just needed to take a break from YouTube in general. So that's kind of what I did in July and like most of August as well. But I read 5 more books this month in August, and I thought, you know, let's just combine them and we're gonna do a whole big reading wrap up of all the 10 books that I've read the past 2 months. I really thought I read more in August, but I read a lot of good quality books. I just didn't read a lot of like quantity books, which is fine because most of the books I read in August were 5 stars, and it totally makes up for July books because they were just like mediocre. I'm gonna be showing you my reviews, my thoughts on the books, the tropes, and we're just gonna go through it all. So I'm gonna first start out with all of my July books, and the first book that I read in July was Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. I freaking love this book. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. This is the last book in the Twisted series. It just reminded me so much of Twisted Love, which is my favorite one of all time, that I knew I was gonna love Twisted Lies. Christian Harper is probably my favorite guy from the Twisted series. It's probably Alex, then Christian, and then Reese, and then I forgot his name, Josh. But I freaking love this book. I loved Christian and Stella. If you read it, you know this book was going around so much on Bookstagram at the very beginning of July because it had just come out. I read it as soon as I got it in the mail. I freaking love this book. It has the boy obsessed trope, the big plot line of like how Stella kind of has this stalker and Christian protects her pretty much. It's not like a bodyguard trope, but it's like a protection trope. I'm not exactly sure like what you would call it, but it's really, really good. Something about this book makes me fall in love so much. I just love it. I really thought the plot line was amazing. I really think the whole entire twist in here as well was just so like well written, and the way that Anna just wrapped up the whole entire Twisted series was just so beautiful. The epilogues in this book were like perfect. It was the perfect way to end this book. I could not see this book ending like in any other way. I know that she also has her new series that she's starting to write. It's called the Kings of Sin series, and she kind of gives little hints to it in this book, which I'm very, very, very excited because she is one of my instant buy kind of authors. And as soon as the Kings of Wrath books comes out, you already know I'm gonna be buying them. Like every single one, they're all gonna be on my shelf. I'm gonna have an Anna little cubby on my shelf, so that's just how it has to be. I started off the month really, really strong with this book, and then I read All the Little Things by Rachel Lee. This is supposed to be a second chance, like it's a brother's best friend, and like they had a thing before, didn't really do anything, and now that her brother like left for I think a month, and then his best friend came to like watch over his sister. It was really weird. It was strange. I gave this one a 1.5, 2 stars just because I didn't really enjoy it. I love Brother's Best Friend. It is my favorite trope of all time. But this book just was kind of bad. I really don't like to say that because it's nothing against the author or anything. It just wasn't a book that I really enjoyed at all. I just felt like this book could have been done a little bit differently. It felt very messy. As I was reading it, I was like, okay, where did this come from? Where did the attitude come from? How are they already kissing? And all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I just didn't feel a connection between the 2 characters. And then the girl character was really annoying. She genuinely pissed me off like a lot. I didn't really like it. That's really all the thoughts I have on it. I don't remember pretty much anything about this book if I'm being honest. So after I read All the Little Things, I read Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, you would know that I have been trying to get into fantasy books, which this book got me into fantasy. I haven't read fantasy since, but I am going to be starting the Shadow Me series very, very soon. I literally have a cubby of fantasy right here. I literally love this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. There was just like this book is basically about 2 kingdoms. One kingdom, this guy who is like the prince, he's not like a prince, I don't know what he's called, but he's thrown into power, so like he's the head person now. And then this girl, she's a part of the Queen's Raton, and she is leading a mission to uncover like these secrets to get someone back that the queen wants to see. And so she goes to the area where she meets this guy, and they end up in a enemies to lovers, cat and mouse kind of game. I didn't expect the book to go the way it did, but like the way that they are just like stuck together was so interesting. I tabbed so much. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I literally tabbed so much of this book, guys. I had a whole entire like color code and everything for this book. I love it. I think it's so beautiful. I just love this book entirely. It really got me into fantasy, and I was like, oh my gosh, the second one, like this first one was so good. The second one has to be good. It's only a duology, and like the way that this ended, it's gonna make the second book just come so much harder. And so I picked up Vow of Thieves, and I didn't enjoy it like at all. It was definitely a 2 or a 3-star for me. I don't know if it was because like I read 2 books in between this book or like what it was, but the plot line, like I just didn't like it. The 2 characters are away from each other for more than half of this book. I want to say they actually got together again like right at the ending, so like all of this, they're not together. It just makes me really upset whenever it's like 2 characters I love, they have great chemistry, the way the plot is going. Like, don't get me wrong, there were some huge plot twists in here that I was like, oh my gosh, and I did enjoy like the story that was going on, but I don't like it whenever authors will split up the main 2 characters for more than half of the book. Like, it just really bothered me. It was just kind of annoying. But I did enjoy this series. The first one was really good. The second one, I didn't really enjoy it as much. I know a lot of people prefer the second one over the first one, but I just really like the world building in here. I like the way all the characters were introduced, and just everything about the first one I loved, and I wish we could have just gotten that more in the second one. And then in between of reading the first and the second book of those 2, on my Kindle I read If He Had Been With Me, which is just a very sad love story. Like, I read this at camp and I cried because I was just like, it's so sad. But I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought the way it was written, because it was written like she was telling a story of the past kind of like in a present tense way. I don't know, just the way it was written was so unique. I've never read a book like that. It was pretty much like a love letter to whiskey. Like, the way that it was written was they're telling a story of like what happened in the past, they're presenting it like it's in the future, but like towards the end of a chapter or sometimes in the middle of a chapter, it'll kind of reflect on what was going on then and kind of how it led up to what happened now. That makes like no sense whenever I say it out loud, but like in my head, and if you've read the book, it does make sense. I really think everybody should read this book because not only does it have an amazing plot line, character, the love story, it just shows the importance of like keeping your friends close and not letting things like break you apart, because not everything lasts forever. I think everybody should read this book. It was so good. And then right after that, I read the book Bring Me Back by Michaela Smeltzer, also on my Kindle. I really like this one as well. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's like, I don't want to say what this book is about because I went into it blind, and the fact that I went into it blind, I didn't have any expectations about how the love story was going to happen, or if there was even a love story at all. But if I'm going to say one thing about it, I'm just going to say this: it's about healing. A lot of healing goes on in this book, and it's just so beautiful to see the way that this character heals from what happened and everything, and just the people around her. I thought it was beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. So those were all the books that I read in July. I did kind of start Vow of Thieves in between July and August, so I count it more for like my August book, but I've already talked about Vow of Thieves. But the second book I read in August was Addicted for Now by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I did a whole entire reading vlog for this book. I'm trying to go through the entire Addicted series by the end of the year. I want to have it finished. Just like the main series, not like the Like Us series. I don't know if I'm going to read that yet. But Addicted for Now, I gave this one I think initially in the video I said 5 out of 5, but I'm going to take that back and do a 4.5 out of 5. Mainly because I took away the 0.5 because I hate the way that they treated Lily in the first half of this book. Very much talked down to her like she was a kid, but they would treat Lo like he's a normal human being, which they are both normal human beings, but just the way that they would treat Lily versus Lo, even though they both are struggling, just made me really upset. But I did really enjoy this book still. More towards like this half of it, after they go on their vacation, I really liked it, and just every little thing that happened, like who was the one that was tormenting Lily and Lo, like literally blew my mind. I never suspected that it was that person, like at all. They were on the bottom of my list. Just everything about this book was so amazing, and the way that we get to see Reich and Daisy, who are my favorite couple, and I haven't even gotten to their book yet, I really enjoyed that as well. I don't know, I just really love this book. I think it was great. I'm not going to go too much in detail because I did have a whole reading vlog for it, and it is the third book of a series, but there are my thoughts on it. And so the next book that I have is An Offer from a Gentleman, which is the third book in the Bridgerton series. I love the Bridgerton show. Whenever I found out that it was like a book series, I needed to get them all. So I have the first 5 of them, and I think there's 10 total. It's also a really big series, but I freaking love this book. I think the second one, The Viscount Who Loved Me, is still my favorite, but this is a very, very, very close second. It's basically a Cinderella retelling. It is Benedict's book. Benedict is my favorite Bridgerton brother. Bridgerton just in general. I love him so much. Sophie Beckett, she is kind of the daughter of an earl, and the earl remarries, and then the stepmother like hates her. Just basically Cinderella retold. She goes to a masquerade ball, meets Benedict, they meet again years later, and stuff goes down. Guys, freaking love this book so much. It was a great way to like go from the Addicted series then go to the Bridgerton series. The Addicted series and the Bridgerton series to me are like the same exact series, just set in different time periods. Like it feels like the same thing to me, like a very close-knit family, a found family. They have their own love stories, a family who just wants to stay together. Like that's the vibes I get from both of them, and that's why like I compare them with one another. But I really love this book. I think it was great. If you are thinking about reading the Bridgerton books and you're like, oh, but I've already watched the show, it's still very much worth it to go read the Bridgerton books because they have a lot more in them. You get a lot more detail and insight to like what is going on and everything. I freaking love this book. 5 out of 5. Amazing. And then the second to last book that I read, which you guys are gonna probably disagree with me whenever I tell you my rating for this and my opinion on it, was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I hated this book. I gave this one a 1 star. If I could give it a 0, I would. It's nothing against the author. Like I feel so bad whenever I give a book a low rating, but this just felt so childish. It was, so they're both 30. It's a then and now, so like Love in Other Words, Last the Summer I Turned Pretty. In this one book, that's the vibes I get from it. I just didn't like that. I felt like I was rereading other books that I've already read, but in like a bad way. And the characters are 30 in like the present time, and I just, the way that they were acting was not of an adult. And, you know, there's only some characters that I read to only have their heart broken and just get like treated very poorly. That was in this book. I just didn't like it. I don't know. Didn't really enjoy this book. I know a lot of people love it because they're like, oh my gosh, Love in Other Words retelling. How can I love in Other Words but not this? Well, I love Love in Other Words, but I don't like this because I also don't like the 2 main characters. I didn't feel a connection, didn't really care. I didn't really like the main girl because she broke up a family. What felt like that to me, I just didn't like it. That's my opinion on that. But the last book that I read in the month of August that I'm very, very happy that I ended off the month with this is The Predator by Runix. This is a reread for me. I read this on my Kindle earlier this year, but I decided to purchase the first 2 books of the Darkverse series by her. So I have The Predator and The Reaper, but The Predator, I give this one a 5 star. I already know I love it. It is a mafia romance book. Basically 2 families who like go against each other kind of have to team up to figure out what is going on, this mystery, people who want to kill them, and all this other kind of stuff. And not only do you get one love story, but you kind of get hinted very much in another love story, and just the way it's written is very poetic. It's written in 3rd person, but like the most beautiful and easy to read 3rd person I've ever read in my entire life. Like it's very poetic. You still get all the feels and like what the main girl is thinking, because it's like 3rd person POV but geared towards like 1 person ish. It's really cool. I love the author of this book. I tabbed it so much. I don't really know if you guys are going to be able to tell, but I tabbed it a lot. And I just really love this book. I think if you are looking for a good like mafia romance to kind of get you into mafia romance, because I don't like super dark mafia romances, but I love this series because it's not dark. It's just like they're in a mafia family, but it's like enemies to lovers. I feel like I'm reading fantasy whenever I read these books. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. So these are all the books that I read the past 2 months. I really hope that in September I can read more, and I can also continue to read really good quality series. I will be starting the Shadow series. I am going to have a whole entire like September TBR video that's going to go up, but I really am happy with all the books I read because most of these are pretty good. I think there was only like 3 out of 10 books that I genuinely didn't like, but all the rest of them I really did. But thank you guys for watching, and make sure to check out all my other videos. I'm going to be having more book videos come out. I'm also going to try to start again with the vlogs. School is just crazy right now. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!